Hey guys, this is Bingo's Adventures back with another review, and today we're going to be looking at the iconic King Kong 1933 movie. And yeah, I have a lot of stuff to say about it, so we're just going to get into this movie. We're going to start out with our first scene where we see it is night and they're at a port somewhere and a theatrical agent is trying to find Denim. My thoughts was like it was all right because they just had a little conversation and there's like a sailor or something telling the dude that all of the crazy stuff that Denim does. And then the next scene, we get introduced to our first three main characters. One of them doesn't really do much after the whole Kong um island situation, Skull Island. So I would say like he's more of like a minor character, but he's more main than the other characters. We also my apologies, my voice is a little messed up because I'm trying to recover from a sickness, so please bear with me. And I'm trying my best to make better YouTube videos. So, yeah, here we go. Um, we get introduced to our three characters: Carl Denham, um, the skipper, which we don't really get his name, and then we meet our hero of the story, Jack Distrol. I'm my apologies. I have issues pronouncing his last name. All you need to know is like his first name, and it's Jack. So, um, they're trying. Carl Denham, is trying to find a leading lady for his film because the public wants one. They want more romance, he says, and the theatrical agents can't find one, so he goes out and sets out one for himself. My thought is like Carl is an interesting character. He really is. Um, we don't really understand the full motives of him, but I do hear like in the sequel he gets a little bit more character development, so hooray to that. Um, and now we he in the next scene we see Carl in the city looking for a lady, and he finds one lady trying to steal an apple, but she's like looking around apples because hello, it's the Great Depression. Yeah, it was crazy back then. And I feel like I'll get into it in a minute, but he takes her with him. My thoughts is like things just got real now because they do show some ladies dealing with the Great Depression and stuff, and I feel like especially now in this year 2026, it's just been crazy. The prices and stuff been crazy. So I don't know if we're gonna go through another freaking Great Depression or if we're starting to because everything in America is going crazy right now. So I don't know. But the next scene is that they go into a coffee shop as they introduce themselves, and this is where we finally get introduced to the lady trying to steal the apples earlier, and this is our leading lady of the movie, the lady that gets captured a few times and has probably one of I kind of got annoyed with her screams a little bit, but I'm just saying it wasn't as bad as my last review. which if you guys haven't saw, it was Tarzan the Fearless, and that girl got captured a whole bunch, and she got into a bunch of peril. I didn't really like it, so I think last review was Alice in Wonderland, but Tarzan the Fearless was the one I was talking about. Yeah, offers her, Carl offers her a trip to go on his ship away her, from the Great Depression and that city and stuff. So, yeah, her name is Ann Darrow, and she is reluctant at first, but then she soon agrees because she's like, hey, it's a job, so she's glad about that. My thoughts is like, Anne, I wish had a better introduction. I really do. Like, that is one thing I kind of wish for all the characters, which we'll talk about going into the ratings and stuff. I kind of wish the characters had a little bit of better character development, because we just see them, and that's just one little downgrade of the movie, but I'm saying, like, the movie's pretty good in my opinion. But we go into the next scene, and Anne and Jack meets for the first time. Yeah, I have some thoughts, because he was like, he's the captain of the ship, so he's commanding. He accidentally slapped Anne, and she's like calm about it. She like is head over heels for this dude. Man, I don't see why she likes him. I was like, Jack is so sexist, because he's over here saying how he hates women and women are trouble. Um, and she just like just just is okay with it in that scene apparently. Um, I hope he is a better character and not a villain. Yeah, that's what I originally thought, he was gonna be like the villain of it, but then there isn't really a villain in this movie unless you count who we will talk about in a minute. Um, and whenever that happens, and then that's whenever like, oh, he's the villain actually. Um, the next scene is that we also meet Charlie the cook. He's just there, and then we see Anne interacting with a monkey and Jack. And Jack makes more sexist comments to Anne, and she defends herself finally, and Jack is surprised. Carl came up and wants to tell Anne the picture that he makes, which is a Beauty and the Beast type of picture, which, if you know about the movie, I'm pretty sure a majority of you guys, or like a majority of these of people watching this video, or have heard about the story of King Kong, about her getting captured. So yeah, this story's pretty famous. Um, and hints at a romance between her and Jack. So yeah, my thoughts is like, I don't really understand Jack. Yeah, I still don't really understand him. He's just, he's like, he has a bit of character at the beginning, but then by the second half of the movie, he's just trying to be the hero and save Anne. I understand that's him trying to save, but I kind of wish we kind of got to see a little bit of him struggle a bit, even though he does a little bit, but you know what I mean. Uh, my and the monkey is cute. Yeah, well, it really was. Even though it could have been cut. Yeah, the monkey could have been cut because the monkey was just there for that brief moment, and it was just like a pet monkey on the ship, which I've heard that it was originally in the script or something, like another character that got cut. And Charlie the cook, I don't it I don't know if they mean for him or if they meant to be racist, but I kind of got the vibes of it, of like why did they make the chef, like that and how he talks and stuff. I'm not a fan of it. Um, it's not okay, guys, and I don't condone that kind of stuff. The next thing is we see Carl, Jack, and Skipper looking from a map that shows the location of Kong, which is on Skull Island. If you guys know about that, Carl is determined, and he takes a picture. He wants to take a picture of Kong, which, as we get later on, we'll see more of his truer motivations, which I kind of understand. I kind of got villain vibes from him too, in my opinion. But he's not evil just for the sake of evil. I think he has a character somewhere, but it's not in this film. But he does have a character somewhere. My thoughts is this was a very interesting version of lore because they talk about Kong as a god. Uh, and yeah, it was an interesting scene, and yeah, I like the little slow build up of oh, we're finally gonna eventually see the character. Because they had to introduce our core four characters. The next scene is that we see Carl doing a few camera shots or test shots as he tells Anne where to go. He tells her to look up and smile, and he tells her to scream, which kind of foreshadows what she's gonna do for the second half of the film. I'm not gonna lie. That is the majority of her character. It's just the screams later on. Which I don't really like. My thought is a great foreshadowing of what's to come. Yeah. Yeah. Uh the next scene is that we soon get trapped by a fog, and they soon find Skull Island after the fog clears for a little bit. They soon have the others load up their ships because they're going towards the island. And goes with them because she's the leading lady. Jack is against it. So our four core members, and I would say a dozen or a couple dozen of crew members goes because you'll understand. My thoughts was the island looks pretty cool. It does. In the movie, the painting of it looks pretty cool. That's one thing I gotta say about this movie is the art pieces and the settings looks pretty cool. The next scene is that we see the crew land on Skull Island and they find a village tribe, which I was also kind of nervous about because I was hoping that they wouldn't be too racist, but I don't know if they plan on it being racist. I don't. We they the movie really didn't talk about it because they just they just skipped over that a little bit in the commentary and stuff. Yes, I'll tell you guys about it in a little bit. Um, but yeah, I don't know the full details how the people was treated in that way. Um, and they do some sort of ceremony or a ritual dance to give a girl to Kong, and they notice Carl taking pictures because dude doesn't understand privacy. He he didn't get their like full consent. He was just there taking pictures, and then they see Anne, and they're like, "We'll trade her for like six ladies," and they're like, "Nope." And then they're like, "We'll talk later. We're just gonna go," and they leave. And my thoughts is like, I just hope there isn't too many racist movies like this. Yeah, like I didn't know if they was completely racist, cause the village chief was like intimidating, so intimidating. Like, yeah, he's gonna f you up if you do something terrible. My thought, the next scene is that it's night and Anne and Jack confess they love each other in the most regular way. Like, you, Jack is like, okay, I guess I love you. So like, he just nonchalantly just says it, which is like the most realistic thing I could say of like, hey, it's at least better than a better love story than Twilight, and then like some of these Hallmark movies, man, because they just go on about it. And I know what you guys gonna say about Hallmark. Don't worry, I'm gonna cover some Hallmark movies way down the line because I still got a long list of movies, and then I got some shows I gotta cover. So we will get to them when we get to them. um, but yeah, Jack Jack calls, or the skipper calls Jack because they have to go over the map, and and because there was nobody guarding the post, or the guard was falling asleep, she gets captured by a few of the tribesmen and taken to the village. Um, and the next scene is like Jack and everyone discovers Anne was taken by the villagers after searching the ship, thanks to Charlie finally realizing, hey, she got taken. Um, and they all go to Skull Island. Thought this was like this would have been avoided, and this movie would have probably. I don't know if anything would have changed in the movie, but the kidnapping of Anne probably would have been different, and there would have probably been a big war thing if that didn't happen. My apologies. It's just I'm trying to go through sickness, so please bear through me. Um, we're going on 20 minutes already, so the next scene is that um we see the tribe do another ritual and they take Anne to these pillars. I believe those are pillars, and they strap her hands on there, and we finally see Kong, and Anne screams for her life. And this is basically the entire rest of the movie. And we soon see Jack and the others chase after Kong after he successfully gets on, because Kong, for some reason, has fallen in love with her. My thoughts was like, the build up to Kong was great. Yeah, that was a great scene, by the way. The whole Kong reveal, it was pretty cool. The next scene is that the crew discovers the island is filled with prehistoric creatures, and they kill a Stegosaurus, I believe, the dinosaur with all the spikes on its back and the spiky tail, that dinosaur. Um, and my thoughts was like, I like the foreshadowing of the danger the crew will go through, because like, it's not gonna look good. Even though they celebrated this victory, they still have a whole island of crazy animals. And this is my favorite part of the movie. It's the Skull Island, because it's just, it was really cool. Um, the next scene is that we see the crew building a raft as they are preparing to cross a river, which, yeah, I don't know how Kong went through that river without holding Anne all the way up like that, and the upcoming dinosaur attack. While they are on the raft, we see a Brontosaurus, and apparently this movie doesn't know what a Brontosaurus is, because it literally comes up and attacks crew, even though I feel like it's one of the most calmest dinosaurs ever and doesn't see humans as food. But it literally just eats a few of the crewmates. Like, I would say at least 3 or 4 crew um mates have gone because of this freaking dinosaur. And my thoughts was like, I thought they only ate veggies, like literally. But I guess no one knew how much they did. Even though we find out way later on in, because I do have the Blu-ray, we find out in a previous, like the previous prototype of King Kong, which is a pretty cool story, by the way. It just it eats plants. So like, I don't get it. I don't know why they changed it. Yeah, it would have been cooler if it was the T Rex, in my opinion. But that's just me. Um, that we do see a little bit later in the next scene. We see the crew running from the Brontosaurus. Now, before we continue there, what this is the scene where that was supposedly deleted, even though I was hearing that a majority of it was faked. So I don't I don't know exactly if the spider pit scene is real. You guys probably know more about it, even though this movie is literally almost 94 years old. or 95 years old because it was being made around that time. Um, like I said, I don't 100% believe the spider pit sequence, even though that would have been a cool scene. I don't 100% believe this, but yeah, we'll talk about it in a little bit. Um, we see Kong t- having Anne, and she's still screaming like crazy, even though I would have been done. I would have been done. Like, of course, he's scary and stuff. Like, to be picked up by a giant ape, but, like, come on, girl. You don't have to scream the whole walk. And then he puts Anne up on a tree, and we see him attack the crew on a log because they refuse to run the other way. Which I heard that was like another cutscene where the crew was like running from another dinosaur, but like I still don't know why they didn't get off the log. But yeah, he literally kills all the people on the log except Jack, and Denim was saved by Plot. Yeah, he was saved by Plot by a freaking branch. I don't get it either. Um, Luckily, Jack was hidden as Kong tries to get him, and then we see the coolest, I would say, the most iconic fight in this movie, which is between Kong and the T Rex, which it still it still looked amazing to this day. I, I, I was amazed by it personally, so yeah, it was a pretty cool fight. Um, and after that, he takes Anne farther into the tree, and she's still screaming like crazy. Um, Jack and Carl decide to separate as they go into their separate ways. He goes back towards the village, and Jack heads deeper into the jungle. And my thoughts was like probably my favorite scenes into the film. Absolutely. Except the one daunting thing with the log I don't fully get. And them saying it there was like a spider pit scene and that whole scene, but I really like the T Rex fight. I think that was the highlight of the film. Um, the next scene is we see Carl tell the skipper about what happened to everyone on the crew except Jack, and Aaron's still alive. So he's like, "We're gonna leave in the morning," and this is like the last time we see the skipper in the movie. We don't see him after all. So he literally was just a side character. Yeah, like I was kind of hoping we would see him a little bit more, but nope. Um, the next my thoughts is like I hate that Carl is still set on using gas bombs. Oh yeah, he brought gas bombs with him, and this is whenever we start realizing what he's planning. He's planning on knocking out Kong. Knocking out Kong, but we don't know exactly why he's knocking out Kong until a few scenes later. Yes. The next scene is that we see Kong carry Anne to a cave in the mountains, and Jack is like right behind them. He didn't have no issues with dinosaurs, thankfully, and he climbs all the way up to a cliff, and he fights with a snake-looking creature after setting Anne down. Um, we mentioned that I heard that he was giving her a flower to show her, like, hey, maybe maybe she'll calm down. And yeah, she almost gets attacked by a snake, but then Kong fights the snake. It's not as iconic as the T-Rex fight, but I I still think it's probably a good fight in the film. Though I think the next fight coming up is more iconic. We soon see him taking her even more up, and Jack's right behind him because Jack has plot armor along with Carl Denham because yeah, he's like the final girls in the four movies. He's like the final girl, but like he's alive. He survives. Um, we we see Kong sit and down. We get a really uncomfortable scene with him tearing off her dress, and she wakes up and he just like starts tickling her and sniffing her clothes and sniffing his fingers. It's super weird, man. I understand. Oh, he's just curious. No, no, I'm not a fan of that, and I'm pretty sure I don't know what other people have to say about, but I was uncomfortable. They could have cut that, in my opinion. Uh, and they did, but then it returned because people's like, yeah, um, Jack accidentally knocks over a rock. Thankfully, before things get even more weirder, and Khan goes and tries to look around. He doesn't see Jack, and a pterodactyl attacks. And as Kong attacks the pterodactyl, because that's his woman apparently, and he kills the pterodactyl. While he's doing that, Jack rescues Anne. They climb down and fall down into the river, even though we see Kong trying to pull them back up. He does not succeed, and her and Jack fall into a river, and they swim away. Um, my thoughts was like, I love the action, but that one scene made me uncomfortable. It did. Um, the pterodactyl fight was also the second most iconic fight in the film, next to being the third and the worst being the snake creature. Those are just my rankings of the fights. The next scene is that we see Jack and Anne finally return back to the village. Thankfully, no dinosaurs attack them. Um, and they try to go back to the ship, but then Carl still has plans for Kong, which we find out at the end of the scene, what his plans are, and then that's whenever I say, yeah, he's the villain of the movie. Kong soon enters the village as the villagers get attacked in their own village just because Kong wants Anne. And I mean, a majority of the villagers get killed, they get eaten. It was it was quite violent, guys. Like guys getting crushed by Kong's teeth, they get smushed by Kong's foot. It's still a great scene in my opinion, but I don't really. I'm kind of iffy on the. My apologies for the cough. My yeah, I don't condone like any negative stereotypes before for African tribes, um, and stuff. So yeah, Kong destroys like at least half of the village, and then he follows the crew on the shore, and Carl knocks him out, and Kong falls asleep as Carl sees money signs and is like, yeah, we're gonna take Kong, and I'm gonna split the money with everyone. And he calls Kong the eighth wonder of the world. And yeah, this is like, yeah, this dude is a villain because King Kong was trying to mind his own business, and rather than them just leaving, I feel like the movie would have still ended well after that happened, but then we wouldn't have seen the ending to it, which is like also one of the most iconic scenes in movie history, which everybody knows about what happens at the end of the movie. Um, which I even knew way before I watched the movie. Um, my thoughts is like, I feel bad for those villagers. I really do. And it's almost 40 minutes, man. And like I said last video, that this video is probably going to be 40 to 50 minutes because I have a lot of stuff to say, and yes, I do have a lot of stuff to say. Um, the next scene is a bit of time pass as Kong is captured and shown at a theater, and Jack shows up opening night as well as Anne, and there are photographers and news reporters, and they're trying to get their story. Carl soon goes on stage because, yeah, thankfully they didn't show what they was doing to Kong because I feel like the movie would have made Carl even a worse character than he already is. Um, Carl soon goes on stage and introduces Kong, and they snap pictures, and like those photographers, like back then, I don't know if people had common sense, but I feel like anybody with flash and they constantly snap and then like flash, and that would make anybody mad in my opinion. So Kong is raging mad because, yeah, he sees Anne with Jack. That fuels the rage. And then we see camera lights flashing. And that's making him even more mad. And he eventually escapes and goes to the city and attacks a few buildings and captures Anne once more. After Jack tries to defend her, he gets knocked down easily by Kong. And she gets taken, and of course, more screaming. My thoughts is like, why does Anne have such an annoying scream? My apologies, but yeah, I kind of got annoyed by the last like 20 minutes of the movie with just her screaming. Uh, the next scene is that we see Kong attack a train full of people because they had to add an extra scene, even though it could have gotten cut. But it was still kind of a great scene as well. Uh, because, yeah, it just shows how ruthless Kong can be. He just attacks those people for no reason. Like, it felt a little bit unnecessary, but like, I don't know. It kind of made me wonder why people was crying over the ending of Kong. Even though we just seen him attack a freaking train. And then we have the last scene is that we see Jack realizes that he can send down planes because he's the hero of the movie, even though he doesn't eventually meet the demise of Kong. They eventually shoot down Kong, and Carl races towards the roof. Kong climbs all the way up, and when he's on top of the roof, multiple airplanes just mercilessly attack Kong rather than. I don't know. Did you guys know how easily that the gas bombs did it? Like, couldn't he couldn't they have used the gas bomb and been like, hey, we're gonna take Kong back to the island? Like, I feel like, I don't know if people would have liked that ending, but that could have been an ending. I could have seen that as a alternate ending of the movie, but they wanted to they just killed Kong. Um, and fun fact, it was like the director and the writer or whatever, um, the people who made Kong shot Kong down. Um, and he falls down the Empire State Building, and then we see Carl Denham being like, they said the airplanes got him, and he was like, no, Beauty killed the Beast, and I was like, no, that that is bull, because the airplanes did kill him. He just was too distracted by Anne and wanted to take her away. So I kind of guess that Beauty kind of killed the Beast, but it was really the airplanes. And then they couldn't. They could have just been like, "Hey, we can take him back to Skull Island." But yeah, I don't know how well that would have been. In my opinion, I don't know if they would have been like, "Hey, we can make a sequel." This video is already getting too long, so my thought is like, still a great iconic ending to a good monster movie. Yeah, this was a great monster movie, by the way. I still see why people love King Kong. So, yeah. Um, the next thing we have, because I have the Blu-ray, um, which hopefully whenever I do movie reviews of it, um, you guys will see me show the DVDs of all the DVDs I got. It will probably be in multiple parts, and I don't know when that will come out. Um, but it will eventually come out. Um, the first special feature is the trailer. Um, hold on, guys. Sorry about that. I had a really nasty cough. Um, we see the commentary. We learn some info about the cast a little bit, but some of the scenes I kind of got annoyed, or some of the stuff was like they was complaining about. Oh, like movies nowadays have too much action, which I kind of agree on. But like, I feel like movies that have action kind of gets the excitement. That's kind of why I like The Skull Island, because it had a whole lot of action and it showed that Kong was kind of OP. Um, he was still OP in the city, but the airplanes got him. Um, and then our next special feature, because I saw the trailer, it was all right. It didn't spoil too much about the movie. That's what I don't really like about trailers, is them spoiling too much of the movie. Just show like scenes of like some exciting scenes, but don't show everything that's gonna happen. Um, the next scene, or the next one is special features. So we have the RKO Production 101, and it gets divided into 7 parts. The run total is about 2 hours and 40 minutes. It's quite a long documentary. So I had a lot to say about the documentary, and it's going to be 15 minutes by the time I'm done. The part 1 is like we learn about the Cooper and Shozak and his wife Ruth, and how Jack and Anne was inspired from both Shozak and his wife Ruth. Um, Kind of like on the ship and stuff. That's what they was talking about in the documentary. Um, then we go on to the next part where we learn the about Brian Willis O'Brien. I mean, um, how we learned like he was one of the first stop motion animators to do films and stuff. And we also get the story of the prototype. This personally is my favorite part about the documentary because we learn about creation. Because I've been hearing about creation, but I didn't know the full story about it, and they gave us like an abridged version of it. I still think it would have been a bit of an interesting film. I feel like it would have made a cool film, especially with all the dinosaurs. I don't know, I just love dinosaurs. Uh, yeah, it was like an interesting story. So the next part is that we learn a lot of information about the film process of like um, how the film was made and like the budget of the movie and the cast and stuff and the how some of them was overworked and it was crazy. The next part is that we learn a bit about the autonomy of the puppets as well as how the different effects was being used because this was the first film that really used those special effects the way they did. Um, the next part is that we learn about the music of the movie and or wait, my apologies, that's the next part. We learn of how about the spider pit scene, and I don't know if like it was Peter Jackson. Peter Jackson was obsessed with the spider pit, and he wanted to remake it. So kudos to him for doing that. The next part is that we learn about the different music scene of the movie. The music was wonderfully done, in my opinion. Um, and yeah, that was and then the last scene was like the legacy, which this was a great documentary. It really was. It gave us a lot of information about the process of the film, and yeah, it was pretty cool. Um, and then we have the creation footage. It was interesting, but I believe it was a bit unnecessary to have like the live action animals because it kind of didn't make sense with live action animals and dinosaurs mixing together, if you know what I mean. Um, and then we have our last documentary. Yes, there's another documentary that's about an hour. Um, and it's called I'm King Kong. So we learn about the different things Willis O'Brien did. Like we learn about Cinemorama and his story basically. Um, I thought it was pretty cool. Um, and now we are gonna get onto our ratings because this video is already long as if. And the story was a 4 out of 5. And the only reason why the story was 4 out of 5 was because of the pacing was a bit iffy and the characters just kind of didn't really develop that well throughout the story, and that's why I give the characters 4 out of 5, because there was some interesting characters. I loved the dinosaur enemies. Um, I love King Kong. King Kong was iconic in this movie. And then we have the outfits, which is a 3 out of 5. Um, I love the spectacular dresses and wears, and the different outfits the characters wear, and yeah, it was interesting. The setting and music of 5 out of 5 in my opinion. I love I love the music in this movie. Um and the settings was pretty cool. The whole Skull Island. I kind of wish we spent more time in Skull Island, but that's my opinion. The commentary, yes, we're gonna get into the commentary. A 2 out of 5. It didn't really do much. It was mostly Ray Harryhausen and I forgot the guy's name, but they both was talking and they was kind of complaining, and I was like, okay, I get it. The special features though, a 5 out of 5, because those documentaries was really well made, and if if you guys haven't seen them, I would say pick up the Blu-ray and give the movie a watch, and watch the documentaries, because it does have some info about the history of film and like the history of like King Kong. Uh and the overall rating was a 3.8 out of 5, which is almost a 4, so it's definitely a good film. I definitely give it a good film rating. I could watch this film again, and that would be it for me. But that is gonna be it for this video and this week. And I will see you guys next week with 2 more movies. We got Son of Kong. We got 2 sequels. We got Son of Kong, and then we have another Tarzan movie, which is Tarzan and His Mate, 1934. I will see you guys next week. Bye. And hopefully I will have stuff fixed by this time. So, see you guys next week. Bye.